with that focus on quality, the idea that you gotta wait things out, you gotta let things age maybe a little bit longer, the impulse to want to rush to market sooner, but having that restraint to hold back and say, no, we're going to go to market with a quality product as opposed to a quantity that we can put out more. I have the pleasure of being joined by Hannah Loewen, the CEO of New Riff Distilling in Newport, Kentucky, one of the handful of bourbon makers here in northern Kentucky representing this region. And we got to get into this part right away. Congratulations.
Thank you.
New Riff Distilling out of Newport, Kentucky, a local business that's been going for a little over a decade. This year, just a few months ago, was the winner of the World's Best Bourbon Award.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank
That is
you.
a tremendous
Thank
accomplishment.
You. Wonderful way to kick off the year. It was a big award. It's through the World Whiskey Awards. It's 90 blind tasters, so experts. There's no influence. You're not buying that access.
Yeah.
And our master distiller and I were at the award ceremony, and we actually knew we were going to win a different award. And him and I were like plotting our trip to the bar after the award ceremony.
Sure.
And they said, all right, it was the final award of the night. World's Best Whiskey. They called our name. We walked past the table of some of our whiskey making idols.
Yeah.
So it's been wonderful. The reaction here in greater Cincinnati and northern Kentucky, I feel like all of us are on board. Now we're the home of the world's best bourbon. So it's been a really exciting 2026.
There's a picture of you and,
yes,
and who's
and
that
Brian,
with you?
That's Brian Sprance. That's our master distiller. Brian and I have been at New Riff since we opened the doors. He was a brewer for 15 years. We turned him into a whiskey maker, and I think in a decade, there will be a lot more shine on his name. He's a whiskey making genius.
That look on your face, I think, has Merriam-Webster reached out to you to have that picture be next to the definition of elated in the dictionary?
Surprised, elated, all of it.
And I think the other really key thing with that award is that wasn't some specialty product that is, that's your regular.
That's our core, so that's our bottled and bond bourbon. It's 4 years old. It's 100 proof. We've made it since day one. It is available in all 50 states. It's available in several export markets now, but it's like the base of our pyramid.
Yeah.
So really exciting. It lifts everything else up. And sometimes these awards go to like a rare release we do once a year that no one can really get their hands on.
Right.
And for it to be on our most widely available product is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, the movie that makes the most money at the box office also winning the Oscar for Best Picture.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a $39.99 bottle you can get all over greater Cincinnati, Kentucky, and the rest of the country. Okay,
now you said bottled and bond. I know a little bit about bourbon, but I don't know a lot. What does bottled and bond mean?
So bottled and bond is a quality standard. It's a law. It's a law,
a state law.
It's a federal law.
Federal law.
Believe it or not, the Bottled and Bond Act happened before the FDA existed.
Okay.
Many, many years ago, people were putting all sorts of wild stuff into whiskey. This was in the 1800s. And so the Bottled and Bond Act ensures nothing can be added. It has to be at least 4 years old. It has to be 100 proof, and it has to be made at one distillery and bottled in one distilling season. So this is it right here. We actually have it embossed in the glass. And it is really the highest quality standard in the world for any spirit, tequila, scotch, rum, etc. And it basically, for us, as a new brand, was a way to say, we're here, we're doing it the right way, this is gonna be a quality product. And over the last decade, a lot of people would have called bottled and bond whiskeys like their grandpa's whiskey.
Okay.
Because a lot of people just associate it with a classic. And so for us, it's a bit of that new riff on an old tradition. We're a modern distillery, it's a modern brand, but we are sticking to this law from the 1800s.
Yeah, so you can still make bourbon that doesn't follow that, but this is if you're thinking quality, that's what that process specifically dictates.
Exactly.
And how has that worked for you guys as far as, being a operation that started in 2014?
Yeah.
With that focus on quality, the idea that you gotta wait things out, you gotta let things age maybe a little bit longer, the impulse to want to rush to market sooner, but having that restraint to hold back and say, no, we're going to go to market with a quality product as opposed to a quantity that we can put out more.
I mean, it goes back to the very creation myth and origin story. The owner of New Riff used to own the Party Source, and so. In the 2000s, 2010s, he was seeing the change in whiskey. One of our co-founders was the fine spirits buyer there, and they were seeing what was happening. And so they had this idea, can we start a whiskey brand, and had the benefit of seeing what was the right way to do it and the foresight and planning to make it that span of time financially. Those first 4 years, We did not have a lot of income, but we knew that. So it was built to endure the first 4 or 5 years. But we've done that the whole time. It's a big part of our brand story, is not cutting corners. We like to say we take the high road even when it's the hard road. And, now I can sit here and say it's paid off. If you would have asked me a decade ago, I'd been like, I'm pretty sure it's going to pay off.
It should. We think it will.
Yeah, it's nice to see that we're getting some external accolades from a lot of the work we've been doing for the last decade.
That's incredible. Yeah, it's like when you plant asparagus in the garden, right? You got to wait a year before you can even harvest any of that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other growth things that do that. I'm just trying to make a comparison. Is that and that's an interesting strategy, because you said you are sort of relatively the new kids on the block and wanting to establish yourself by focusing on quality. How has that maybe made waves with your contemporaries and colleagues?
Yeah, I mean, I think the industry at large has always been collegial with each other. There's a lot of support, especially here in Kentucky. We're a part of the Kentucky Distillers Association on the Bourbon Trail. A bit of the high tide lifts all boats. And so I think we were welcomed. We always tried to be really transparent and authentic in what we did. I mean, we could have called this, Old Newport Creek and made up a story, but we didn't have an authentic story, so we told people who we were. We were a new riff on an old tradition, and instead of saying we're bashing the old tradition, I think a riff, like a guitar riff, you respect that song, but you're putting your own spin on it. And so we just stuck with that. We all believe it. I mean, everybody was committed to that from day one. And so we felt supported, and it's a major credit to the big guys in bourbon. They've always understood the value of the smaller craft or independent brands, because it brings in new customers, it creates curiosity and engagement and experience for all of us.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that the industry is fairly collegial, because, Northern Kentucky, I feel like often gets lumped in with Cincinnati in the same way that people in Ohio lump Cincinnati in with Kentucky. And this is sort of like a little island of a culture and community around here. I feel like most of the focus in bourbon is on Louisville.
100%. They call the Amber Triangle Louisville, Bardstown, and Lexington, a little bit of Frankfurt. And we're like, hello, come up here. CVG is the best airport for the Bourbon Trail. Ohio's the #1 visitor state for almost 10 million people a year that come visit the Bourbon Trail. So we see ourselves as the entry point. We have not been officially deemed that, but we have so many visitors who are here like on Thursday mornings before they're going in to Central Kentucky, and we have the benefit of a local community. So our tasting room, the Aquifer Tasting Room, which is open to the public, we have cocktails and a little bit of food along with our full library. Like, we have regulars. If you're out kind of in the middle of nowhere in Central Kentucky, there's probably not a strong base of people who are coming for like Reds Day specials, for home game specials and local events. And so we like our little spot up here. I feel like it gives us some space to be creative, and we love being a part of the greater Cincinnati community. I mean, we're the biggest city in Kentucky, basically, because we have this whole place behind us.
What is that like for you as CEO of this distilling company, this distillery, where because of the importance of the product itself and to the identity of the state and the importance of the role that the bourbon industry plays in tourism, I mean, are you in touch with, you're in touch with local leaders talking about tourism?
Absolutely.
We played that video from the Kentucky Tourism and Visit Cincy. Like, there's a lot of different angles that you got to be aware of.
We are highly involved with wonderful partners, with Julie Kirkpatrick at Meet NKY and Visit Cincy, with friends at CVG, with our local politicians. My counterpart and I, Molly Lewis, who's our president, second generation of the family ownership, we invest a lot into those relationships, and we want to be a place where when people are coming to visit because they've opened a new flight to Iceland, because a new conference is coming to town, they're soliciting a new business, they come visit us. They want to be able to show that if they move and invest in this community, there's cool things, there's a sense of pride and place and things that are here that really ground the community. So we like to host those folks when they come in, do what we can, and the love and support we get shown from those partners all over the city is incredible.
Well, and there's such a uniqueness to it also, because, there's so many places that might say world's best hamburger or largest ball of twine, and so many different places could say that sort of thing. But because bourbon is so specific to Kentucky, there's a little bit of production in Tennessee, right? But as far as Kentucky is the state for bourbon.
It is 95% of the bourbon in the world, which has to be made in the U.S.
Right.
So
that's
in
a
the
good
US
law for quality, by the way.
has to be or is made in Kentucky. You can make bourbon anywhere in the U.S. We like to say the best bourbon's made here in Kentucky, but there's a lot of not only physiological and water and limestone and grains, but also just like the culture. I mean, if you meet people around here that are in this industry, their parents worked in the industry, their grandparents did, and Greater Cincinnati has a deep and rich history, not only of distilling, but of rectifying because of the river. So a lot of whiskey made in central Kentucky came up through Cincinnati, got sent down the Mississippi, down to New Orleans, et cetera. And so there's just like, it's in our blood, it's in our milieu, you know? And we feel that all the time. It's a tight-knit industry, but it's been here for a long time. And even in all the connection with brewing. I mentioned earlier that our master distiller, Brian Sprance, was a brewer. Like, the first part of making whiskey is making beer. So we feel very tied to the manufacturing, drinking culture of Greater Cincinnati.
Yeah, because it's all tied to fermentation. It's just different levels of fermentation, right? I was reading a little fact. I was looking up like fun facts about the bourbon industry, and there was a bit about how when like the U.S. needed to produce penicillin decades ago, bourbon makers really stepped in because you're just talking about the fermentation process, and that's just what we needed to do to get something done.
It's amazing. There have been a lot of examples of that. I mean, during COVID, our production team, which we don't normally produce vodka, which is like a much higher proof distillation, they figured out how to make hand sanitizer in a number of days, and we were driving trucks around with big blue drums of hand sanitizer. I mean, we still have hand sanitizer in our basement from, you know, spring of 2020, but the capacity to kind of take that same mindset. We've done a lot of collaborations with other local breweries, whether they're aging beer in our barrels. We just released a really cool product with Rhinegeist.
I was going to ask you about this. I grabbed a picture of it, the Duet.
Duet, which is an American malt whiskey. And we basically took product of ours, it was about 7 years old. We brought over 20 or 30 barrels to the basement of Rhinegeist, aged in what's called a fooder. It's basically a giant wood barrel. They normally age. There it is. Beautiful bottle. Great story about this. Our graphic designer and Rhinegeist's graphic designer collaborated on this bottle. Turns out they had just been married a few months before this project.
What, those two
Jared
people?
Jared and Chloe, yep, completely coincidental. I mean, we obviously know she works at Rhinegeist, but we were like, so do you guys mind making this label together? I know you're newlyweds, but they did an amazing job. But we aged the whiskey in there where they normally are aging beer and souring beer, which is really cool. It's a really interesting product, but that connection, there's so many friendships across the river in the industry. It's really fun to see them come to life.
That's really great. We are got to take a break.
Great. When
we come back, we're going to have more with Hannah Lowen from New Riff Distilling. Stick around. You're watching The Working Lunch on The Crown.